John here with Ripewave Audio, and for this video, we're going to find out which AV processors and receivers support front-wide speakers. Now, this is not to advocate for front-wide speakers. At this point, we haven't done any research to find out really what their value is to the immersive experience, but we are pre-wired for front-wides, and we intend to add them to our theater right here. I do have in-wall mounted in the walls, fire-rated CL3 speaker wire that's between my side surrounds and my front speakers. So we're ready to go there. These are going to be along the sides of the room, and they're going to be sitting on tables, and I can take some bookshelf speakers and point them to the main listening position as they should be. But yeah, we are going to be finding out there's mixed reviews out there. There are some reviewers out there that are telling you it's really worth it. There's going to be more content coming. There has been coming to both music and movies. And then there's others that saying, geez, it's really not enough content in the mix to worry about. So we're going to find out that for ourselves. But first, we need to find out which AV processors and receivers support this beyond what we already have, which is the Emotiva RMC1 out there. Now, what is a front-wide speaker, and why is this even a concept? Well, this is not a new concept. This dates back to 1952 with the introduction of Cinerama for the movie theater experience. And that screen was so wide that they placed additional speakers between the center, left, and right to make 5 on the front stage. And so dating back to 1952, you could get a 5-channel surround experience in the front behind the screen at the movie theaters. And this was also present in competing format Todd-AO, which also introduced 5 channels. And I think that might have been a little more discreet in that case. But nevertheless, those were the 2 formats that were for movie theaters that gave you 5 channels behind the screen. And it wasn't until 1993 with the introduction of Sony's Dynamic Digital Sound, or SDDS, in 1993 that we saw this again. But there really hasn't been, the promotion of these 5 channels in the front as discrete channels, other than what we see here. Now, this finally hit the home theater market with Odyssey's DSX technology in 2009, when you could bring to configure front-wide speakers with some of the receivers that were coming out at the time. I think Denon Marantz might have supported them amongst others. And then with Dolby Atmos coming about in 2014, that was also incorporated into the formal speaker layouts as defined by Dolby. They define a 9.1.4 or 9.1.6. This actual diagram on the screen is one that Dolby publishes. I've highlighted the front wide speakers, and you can see here that they placed them directly, in between the left and right speakers as normal and the side surrounds, and they've got the angles defined, etc. Now, there's a lot of clever ways if it's difficult for you to mount in those locations because of doorways and so forth. I've even heard of people mounting them in the ceiling and getting favorable results as well, as long as the speaker can be angled towards the listener. That would, I would say, to be the minimum. Just having them facing straight down or facing each other in the front of the room, I don't think that's going to produce that great of an effect. I think you want that pointing to the listener as much as possible. And DTSX Pro also has the ability to configure for front wides. I've heard reports that standard DTSX mixes really aren't doing much there, although the Neural X up mixer can make use of this. I don't hear about anything really being done with the Auro 3D. There's not at least a defined speaker layout that has front wides for Auro 3D. So even the largest layout that they define doesn't to have it. They favor more of these height channels with the height centers and stuff over adding in a front wide is not defined. So those are the speaker formats. Again, once we bring it in-house, we can explore that even further. So let's go into our Ripewave audio database. For you that are patrons at the highest level, $10 a month, you can get access to this database that we post on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Ripewave. But in this database, we have 243 models from 29 brands. There are some of those that are discontinued that brings down the actively sold models down to 127 from 27 brands. And when we look at this closer and find out which ones actually support front wide channels, you end up with 18 out of the 27 brands supporting front wides and delivering 55 models out of the 127. So that's 43% of the active brands models, of the active models, you can find capability of supporting front wides. Now, in some cases, you're making some trade-offs. They're not always dedicated channels for front wides or dedicated amplifiers. If it's a receiver for front wides, you may have to give up a row of heights or something like that, or a number of subwoofers that can be configured in order to use your front wides. And we'll point those out to you here in a bit. But pay attention that there are certain brands that don't offer front wides at all. So you're not going to find it from the Pioneer, Onkyo, Integra brands. So that's completely out. You're not going to see it from Meridian, NAD, Rotel. You're not going to see it from Theta Digital, Tone Winner, or Yamaha. We just brought the Yamaha flagship in recently, and yes, there was no support there in the Yamaha products. So if this is something that you're interested in, you've made a decision to move forward with front wides, you're going to need to know which processors and receivers support it, so you're not disappointed when you bring it in and you're getting nothing out of those speakers. So these are the models that we're going to go over here that let you know which units to focus on in your selection process. And this chart here that we put together does a couple of things. One, it lists them from lowest to highest cost units. If you're on our Patreon channel, you can get these slides from this presentations and look at this more carefully, or you can just pause the video and study your screen. But nevertheless, we've got these in lowest to highest price. This first slide here is showing you models under $10,000. Then we go over $10,000 on the next screen. And we have a column here that says maximum with front wides. So what we're doing with this maximum with front wides column is saying if you've enabled your front wide speakers, what type of speaker configurations can you then do? Because a lot of cases, because you've turned on front wides, you have less subwoofers or less rows of heights to draw from on your speaker configuration. So we note this if they're dedicated channels or whatever. So let's take a look at this. If you want to get in with front wides, what is the lowest cost processor available? And that's, we found to be the IOTA VX AVX 1700. This sells for $1,700 and allows you to configure, lets you configure up to a 9.4.4 configuration. Now, when you do enable your front wides with the AVX 17, you lose your second row of heights, which is your middle row of heights on this unit. Now, Emotiva's lowest price product that has front wides is their XMC2 that sells for $2,500. This, you have a trade-off. You can do a 9.1.6, or you could give up a row of heights and do a 9.3.4, bringing in 2 more subwoofer channels that are dedicated. But your front wides are always dedicated outputs. They have discrete outputs for front wide, so you don't have to compromise. They're always there. And this is true also for the RMC1L, which is $3,200, and the RMC1, which is $3,750. They all support the same speaker layout options, even though they have these different price point models, essentially improving the sound quality or giving you more expansion capability as you move through their range. The first Denon product is the AVR receiver. So this is not just the first Denon product, but the first receiver with front wides. That's the lowest cost, is the Denon X6700H at $3,000. Gives you a 9.2.4 configuration, and here you're making a trade-off with the third row of heights to enable your front wides. So it leaves you just with the two rows of height channels. The Sony STR-AZ7000ES is their new flagship. Now, they had been dormant for a few years, and they've come out in the recent year. These new products, the 7000 being their flagship, it's the only model that they have that supports front wides. So if you want Sony and you want front wides, this is your model. $3,300, 9.1.4 configuration is possible. You're giving up, again, the third row of heights with this product. Now, Harman brands, Arcam, JBL Synthesis, as well as the derived products, Audio Control, they all have the same speaker layout support, a 9.1.6, using the auxiliary outputs, which are definable of 13 and 14, configured as front wides. The AVR 2100 is the lowest cost unit from this collection of brands, $4,700. These go up from there, and there's a $4,000 differential between this entry-level model from Arcam up to the most expensive Audio Control model. So you have in between, you've got the Arcam AV4100, which is a processor separate, $4,200, same speaker layout. Then you have the Audio Control Concert XR6 and XR6S. We have the 6S shown here at $4,900. The S models are the ones that have the new HDMI 2.1. The Arcam AVR 3100 at $5,500. The Audio Control Concert XR8 and 8S at $6,400, at least for the S model. The Audio Control Maestro X7 and 7S at $6,500. The JBL Synthesis SDP, that's a processor, SDP 58 at $6,900. The JBL Synthesis receiver, the SDR38 at $8,550. And then finally, the most expensive unit, which is the Audio Control Maestro X9 and X9S at $8,900 for the S model. So that is the Harman / Audio Control family, if you will, all 9.1.6 capable, using those configurable auxiliary outputs. And so that's a big difference between the entry to the most expensive $4,000. Marantz enters this chart with their SR8015. This is a $4,000 unit. Now, it's been out there for a few years, so you might be able to get it less money. A lot of these older models, that's the case. But this is the current list price. 9.1.4 configuration. For that, you give up on the third row of heights like you do with the Denon 6700. Then you've got the monoprice Monolith HTP1. Now, this product, availability of it off and off for long periods. It seems to be of active sale currently after showing not being available to December this year. Suddenly it showed up in August as available. We've ordered one for our own review while it's still available, and hopefully they can keep their production going. This $4,000 unit you can configure for 9.1.6, or if you want more subwoofers, 9.5.2, and anywhere in between. You essentially give up on the second row of heights if you want to configure your front wide channels. Now, Anthem, there's 3 models that they have that support front wides. They have the AVM 78K, which is a processor, the MRX 1140, that is a receiver, which is $200 more than the processor, which is $4,200 versus $4,000. And then their flagship, the AVM90 8K, which jumps all the way up to $7,500. Despite the price differences, and one being a receiver and the other two being processors, they're all 9.2.6, and these are dedicated for front wides. So they have a dedicated output like Emotiva for front wides. So no worries, that's always available to you. You don't have to make a compromise on your speaker layout to add this. Then you have the Denon AVR-X 8500HA. This is for $4,600, gives you 9.2.4, giving up on a fourth row of heights. Now, not a lot of theaters, home theaters support or have a third row of heights, never mind a fourth row of heights. So giving up a fourth row of heights may not be a big deal for a lot of you. So that's not a big trade-off there. This is similar to the Marantz entry here, the Marantz processor, the AV8805A, which is $5,500. Also a 9.2.4 configuration, giving up on the fourth row of heights. There's one more product on this list that's the same, which is the Macintosh MX123 8K. It's the last on this list, $9,000. It's derived from the AV8805. It adds in the Macintosh touches and some components there, but it has a lot of circuitry and it has the same layout support as the Marantz and Denon products, 9.2.4, giving up on the fourth row of heights. Acurus is in here with the Muse product, $6,500. That's very assignable on that 9.1.6 to a 9.3.4 configuration. Then Denon is the first entry from Denon and Marantz here, the AVR A1H, that has been released in the last year. And is the first one that really fully supports the new HDMI 2.1 on all the inputs. And the other models we spoke of previously from Denon and Marantz have some limitations there. So that's a $6,500 unit. It supports up to 4 subwoofers, but still retaining the ability to do front wide. So it does a 9.4.6 configuration on this AVR A1H flagship receiver from Denon. Now the Marantz AV10 processor is very similar. It supports the same layout, a 9.4.6. It's assignable there, and it sells for $500 more as a processor, only at $7,000. So this gets us through the products that are under $10,000 here with this list. This is where most of us sit. I sit under $5,000, but to go above $10,000, you're in a unique enthusiast that has the resources to do so. But for those people that have it, I really think that most options above $10,000 support front wides. There are some exceptions there. Some of these brands that really haven't refreshed their ranges recently, like a Meridian, for example, doesn't support front wides. But you're looking at most of the portfolios above $10,000 supporting front wides. We're not going to go individually on these, but I'll make a few notes. You see Lingdorf and Storm Audio and Datastat and Acurus and Bryston and Macintosh, Focal, Trinoff, and JBL Synthesis all here. For the most part, they're giving you a 9.x.x configuration. So they're giving you the 9 channels and not giving you more than 9 channels. There are a couple of exceptions here because while a lot of these are 16 channel processors, some can do 24 or 32 channels of outputs. And as such, they can give you even more bed layers. And in some cases, they're replicating side surrounds to multiple rows of side surrounds. But those are products like the Storm Audio ISP Elite Mark III can give you 13 ear level speakers, 9 subwoofers, and 10 heights on a speaker lid. So this is a very capable product. To be outdone, though, by Trinoff Altitude 32, which can give you 21 on the ear level, a subwoofer, and 10 heights. And these are all very assignable. Other ones here are all really 9 is the max on the ear level. Gives you anywhere between 9 and 5 channels of subwoofer depending on the models, and some height channels here. But these are all very assignable, ranging from $11,300 for the Lingdorf MP40 2.1, which is really the same layout configuration as the MP60 2.1, which sells for $3,000 more at $15,000. But all the way up to JBL synthesis products that can even go over $30,000 for a processor. So this kind of wraps it up for what's available out there for front-wide supporting AV processors and receivers. Now, what are your thoughts? If you already have front-wides configured, I really want to hear from you. Was it worth it? Are you hearing things coming out? Has it really made that front stage really more exciting, more wide, and you can hear those pans from front to back and across the room much better? If you're considering front wides, does this help you in knowing which models are available out there? Why are you considering front wides? That feedback would be good. Again, the jury's out. There's mixed reviews out there whether this has a big benefit or it's only on certain content. This feedback would be really useful to the Ripewave community. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to take your involvement to the next level, our Patreon channel is getting more active. I'm giving weekly updates about what we're doing with this channel, letting you help select which content by putting out some surveys when we have some decisions to make on what video to do next. And of course, at the top tier, you can get to the database as well as see the slides from these presentations. But you can also go to that thanks button and do a one-time donation. A lot of people are doing that, and that's really appreciated as well. Of course, anybody can hit the bell notification so they're informed when the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.